Welcome to Wounds to Scars podcast, a weekly conversation about mental health, self-help, and the Christian community. We ask questions such as, can my faith heal me? Or do I need to add works to my faith, i.e. see a counselor, attend a group, or generally get help? I am your host, Joanna Daniel, a counselor that lives in Wales, UK. For more information, visit our website at woundstoscars.com. While I hope you'll enjoy our weekly conversation, the information and advice received in this podcast should not be substituted for getting help from a qualified mental health professional. Right, so welcome, Corey, and thank you so much for joining this conversation. So you're the second male that we're talking to about our topic of healthy relationships. And as I was saying before we started to record, that I wanted a model of what healthy relationships look like. So at Wounds to Scars, we work with women who experience abuse, and most of the abuse that occur, male are the perpetrators. And I just wanted to talk to other men who I know have healthy relationships so we can talk about what that looks like. What are some of the work that you put in to make sure that you're a healthy male, to make sure that the space around you is safe, to make sure that people that are around you are safe. And so as we have the conversation, I'm hoping that other men hearing it will also benefit if they struggle, if they didn't have a good template, because it's so important to have a positive example. And when you don't have a positive example, you literally have to go find one. You have to go build one. And so thank you for coming. So anything that you want to say before we start?
No, that's it. I guess we can jump right in.
Yeah, okay. So just what healthy relationships look like. So some of the stuff our notes that we have, one of the things that we know healthy relationships have is mutual respect. And I want to know, like, what do you have to say to men about that? Because sometimes, Corey, so we live in a patriarchal world, and in some places more so than other places, but there are relationships dynamics that make mutual respect not a thing. Like, it's for example, there's this book that I absolutely do not like. And I saw it reviewed by some domestic abuse advocates, and I thought, the first time I heard about the book, I thought, I don't like that book. I don't like how it sounds. And then I thought, let me read the book so that I can have an honest response to the book. And I started, and my mind hasn't changed. And it's called Love and Respect. I do not at all. So I mean, so sometimes mutual respect is not a thing, because there is this agenda programming, I don't know, that says men want to be respected. So then if that's somebody's template, how does that work in terms of mutual respect? That means I don't have to respect you, since respect is my thing. I just need to love you because my thing is respect, and I want all the respect. That makes sense? Let's talk about that. Mutual respect.
That's an interesting one. I think we can't have one without the other. For starters, yeah, I think very important is respect is important, obviously.
Yes, of course.
And what we can't run away from is that we need them both. We need to have love and respect. And I think for me, it starts with respect for myself.
You want to like self-respect.
Yes. Before I even go into respect in my relationship. I guess for me, I've sat down and I've done my homework and done my work and stuff on, okay, what is respect for me? Okay? And if respect for me, if I have this high level of self-respect, then even that will inform the way that I conduct myself when it comes to respect of my partner and the people around me.
I like that. Yeah. Your self-respect informs how you respect others.
Yes.
And even how you receive it as well, I imagine.
Yes. I think on receiving it, it's slightly more difficult. It's not as simple as straightforward, because then you're also you're delving into the realm of somebody else, and
Right.
okay, then there's always interpretation. There's, you know what I mean, there's listening,
Right.
and then there's comprehension. Somebody said to me recently, the problem is not really listening, the problem is comprehension. And I thought, that's really interesting, isn't it? So in terms of receiving it, that's where it becomes a little bit more tricky, I think, tricky and challenging.
But does that mean, if I'm understanding that, sometimes we might filter our perception through the respect might be filtered, like, or what we perceive as disrespect might be filtered through our stuff. And so they might not mean to be disrespectful, but we feel disrespected. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It for us, it has come through, I guess, a lot of conversation and understanding.
Yeah.
Just some of it's even maturity on my part. You know what I mean? Just, okay.
Is that maturity in age, or what? What kind of maturity?
Some of it in age, but do we really just mature in age? I don't think we really do just mature in age. There's a lot of reflection and you know what I mean, conversation with helpful people. Let's put it that way. If we if we keep our eyes open in terms of okay, what can I learn from those around me in those conversations and that sort of thing, that's where I think a lot of growth and stuff comes from. Obviously there are other places, but yes, back to your point, I think for me the two main things are understanding, or trying to understand, okay, where's this person come from with this? Why, even sometimes asking myself, why do I feel disrespected by this?
That's a good one.
Why do I feel disrespected by this? Is it something that I should still try? Okay, let me find the root of it. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And then you kind of ask yourself, okay, is it? But you obviously have to get to a place where you're able to sit and objectively look at these things and be like, okay, this is conditioning from my past that, you know what, this is detrimental to my to growth and to me moving forward. So I ultimately have to shake this.
Wow, I love it.
Making that person understand sometimes where it comes from. Hey, when you do this, this is what it looks like to me. This is what I see.
And you know, communication is one of those keys to a healthy relationship. And there's a few points that you mentioned that hints at healthy communication. And so here's one of them, where you said you giving feedback, like, when this happens, this is what's happened for me. And I think sometimes another thing that can add to that is to just check in. Is that what you meant? Because this is what I received. Because you said also, you realize that sometimes that's not what's meant, but because of wiring from your past, that's how you receive it. But it might not be. So then that touched on something else for me. How important is it for somebody to, like a male, to understand their past in order to have healthy relationships?
For it's very important, I think, for me personally. It wasn't until I started to really unpack my past that I realized that, okay, my relationships were perhaps not as healthy as they could be.
Yeah.
No, the trouble is, a lot of our day-to-day, we live in autopilot. And because we live a lot of our day-to-day in autopilot, we don't even stop to think about our automatic responses and triggers and that sort of thing, and how these things impact every single decision that we make.
Yes.
We tend to sit down and think about the big decisions. Oh, you know what I mean? Is it time to start a family, or buying this new house, or leaving my job, or you know what I mean? But the little millions of decisions that make up a life on a day-to-day basis, They're just made just like that in automatic mode.
Yes.
And because
Yes.
if we don't fully understand who we are and what has shaped us to get to where we are now, we'll obliviously live our lives either in a lot of pain or hurting others.
Oh, wow. Either in a lot of pain or hurting others. And when we're in a lot of pain, we will hurt others because we're always in relationship, because we're not islands. We're always in relationship with others. So what I'm hearing, if I can paraphrase correctly, is that we're busy. Life is busy, and that's true. And we do so many things automatically, but slowing it down means understanding your past and the impact of your past, understanding, because that's really important, because there are decisions that are made that is affecting you and other people that you're unaware of because they're so automatic. But slowing it down and getting to learn about yourself means that you get to learn about the triggers and the what's the word I'm looking for, and the what informs those decisions. And that's such a massive key. Such a massive key for anybody to have.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. We it's that somebody spoke to me about our automatic responses and our triggers and that sort of thing. And we it's only after that you start to think about it and you realize that when somebody says something, the way your body tenses up, and you know what I mean. And prior to that, for me, I went through just life like that. It was just part of what happened when somebody said something. But now I'm able to hear that and feel that tension. I actually feel my body tensing up, and I'm okay. Stop and think about this. This is what is happening, right? Okay, this is what this means. Okay, this person has struck a nerve. Why have they struck a nerve? Oh, because I've seen this before. Because somebody I loved was treated this way, and you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can only do that by understanding your past.
By understanding your past, you have to develop self-awareness. I mean, so how easy is it for a man to do that, to want to do that work? I know what it looks like from this side when a male come to therapy, but how easy is it for a man to make that decision?
It's not.
It's not easy.
It's not. I don't know. I think we live our lives being conditioned to be providers, to be. I'll speak for my background and my where I'm from. So we live our lives being conditioned to keep it moving, be strong. You know what I mean? Just do what you need to do to make sure that your family are okay. Do what you need to do to be able to provide. Keep yourself well enough to do the important things, which is to provide and to protect. Just keep yourself well enough to provide and protect.
Oh, wow. There's nothing about you in all of that. It's just like, you just provide and protect. Not, are you okay? What's your well-being like? You know, how's your mental health? How are you feeling? I don't hear any room for that in that message of keep yourself well enough to provide and protect.
No, mental health. I started to learn about mental health when I started to hear about it in my 20s.
Yeah.
Hear about it. And then I started to accept it in my late 20s, maybe early 30s. Then I started to accept and realize that actually, do you know what? It's not, there is something to be said for it. And that's what kind of opened up firstly, the interest in it, and kind of being open to learning about the effects of these things and even just the science behind it. You know what I mean? For a lot of people where I'm from, the science is, well, that, come on, man, don't bring that to me. No. Just
Dismissed.
no, you don't have enough problems. Clearly, you don't have enough problems. You know what I mean? What are you on about? That's for those people. You know what I mean?
Us.
It's not for us. Exactly. It's not for us. But as you, I guess, learn more about it and begin to accept it, it's very difficult to accept. I think for me, that's where a lot of the challenge was. It was in accepting that, you know what, I cannot be okay 24/7. I cannot be okay all the time. There will be times when I am not okay. And
I just need, I mean, that's such a golden this moment. I don't want it to pass, because one of the things, again, for healthy relationships is vulnerability. And what I'm hearing you talk about is your relationship with you that is developing, that has developed, that is helping you to be a healthy person in a relationship. So you're saying, I've had to come to the place where I'm accepting that I'm not going to be okay all the time. And I think that's such a sweet, vulnerable moment for anybody to have with themselves. And I hope the men that are listening really hear this. And if you're listening as a mom, hear it for your sons. If you're listening as a father, check in with yourself. How am I doing? So that you can, and be honest with the response. And if the response is I'm not doing okay, then it's really important that you get help, because if you're not okay, then you can't be a healthy person having a healthy relationship. It just won't work. It just won't happen. You'll be frustrated and angry and irritable and short-tempered and acting out of character, and you'll be doing things that you're not proud of because you are not okay.
And the sad thing is, chances are you'll do that in oblivion, not even realizing that that's the destruction that you're taking with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. Yes. And we want to be responsible and aware of all of our actions. And that's a way of doing that. I like that, because I mean, we didn't plan a direction for this to go in, but I like that it's going in the direction of checking with yourself. What's your mental health like? We know the messaging that a lot of men, and I'm going to say Black men, grew up with is provide and protect. And there is no room for a conversation around how are you feeling. And what we're saying is, if you are not able to know how you're feeling and have an appropriate outlet, then you're going to take your frustration out on the people that love you. And then that's not okay, and we can't excuse it. So what we're saying is, get help so that you can have the tools to compromise and to communicate and to manage conflict, because without those, you won't be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Won't be able to. So let's talk about, we're gonna wrap up in a few minutes, but one of the things, Cora, that's important in a relationship to make it healthy is individuality. You can do you, I can do me, and the relationship stays healthy, because I suppose with that come boundaries and a level of trust. Somebody to fully express and explore who they are, and the next person is okay with that. And I saw Ty Gibson is my favorite theologian at the moment, says love is freedom. Love is freedom. When we love somebody, we give them the freedom to choose, but freedom is risky. Okay. We know in relationships where there's coercive control and manipulation, there's no freedom. So how do we, what does that look like for a man? Let me just say that. What does that look like and feel like for a man if there is this discussion around individuality and freedom and giving the person the freedom to be themselves? And I think maybe I can have this conversation with a woman, like, how do you feel about giving freedom and all that kind of stuff? And I say give because we don't give people, we don't own anybody. So we are not giving, but make the relationship safe enough for freedom and individuality and self-expression to happen. What does that look like for a man?
For me, I think it's again understanding. I like that expression, that love is freedom. I look at it this way. If my partner is not happy, there's no way that I'm going to be happy.
It will impact you.
Right. So there's only one way, there's only one solution, and that is for us to find the balance.
Right.
That's the only way. So well, I mean, with the freedom thing, I look at it. What kind of freedom are we talking about, for starters?
As we look at in terms of individuality, the freedom to be who you are in that relationship and not feel like you have to be somebody that is going to be acceptable, or for somebody to change you into the person that they want, for my husband to try to change me into an idea that he has in his mind, or for me to change him into an idea that I have in my mind of who he should be. That freedom to fully be the person that you were created to be without anybody trying to hamper that process.
Yeah, again, that's only for mature people. Sadly.
Emotionally mature
people, sadly, because you can, if the person that you're with is not free to be who they are, they'll do everything. They might get to the point where they can do everything to make you happy, right? But they still, when they are doing everything that you think they should be doing to make you happy, there will still be unhappiness.
Absolutely.
Deep unhappiness.
Absolutely. And I wanted to just add something in there. When we think about healthy relationships, our happiness cannot be dependent on our spouse or your partner or anybody else.
Yep.
It can't, because we change. We have to find an internal meter for our happiness and use that as our guide. Like, what makes me happy? Who am I? What do I like? All of those questions you have to in order for an individual to find happiness, is go on your own self-discovery journey to find out, who am I? Because the other person could do all kinds of stuff and you still won't be happy, because that's not the solution to your problem.
Until you can, as a person in a relationship, until you can come to a place where your happiness comes from seeing the other person happy, or part of your happiness,
I was gonna say,
comes from
seeing
the other person happy, then you're until you get there, you got a way to go. I think
you've got a way to go. So you find pleasure in, and that's again a place that only an individual can come to. It can't be a forced place. Nobody can tell you to do it. You become so settled in yourself and who you are that you're happy for the next person to become settled in themselves and who they are. And that's what individuality is. And that's where freedom is, isn't it? Like, I am on this journey, I'm doing it, I'm settled in who I am and myself, and I'm fine with you, and I'm happy. Like, look, is that you? You like pink shirt? Oh, wow. I mean, it looks good. Pink's not my color, but if that's, and of course I'm trivializing it, but it's really important, because we don't see this in relationships that are not healthy. This is not this is not a feature. And it means that sometimes we're gonna have to talk about it. There's gonna be some allowances made. We're going to compromise, and everybody's gonna leave the table happy.
There has to be some adjustment on both parts. Yes. You know what I mean? On the person who initially wouldn't give the freedom, you know what I mean? There needs to be some understanding that, okay, this is, perhaps I've got a problem that I need to you know what I mean? I need to get this stone out of my shoe before we can.
Yeah, I think that's a problem, because you just said the other person who won't give the freedom, and for me, I hear that is like, oh, what do you mean give? Like, who can withhold freedom from another human being? Because if we're talking about healthy relationships, somebody can't withhold freedom from another person, and that's where it becomes problematic, and that's where abuse is seeping in. And I mean, we all have the potential, isn't it, to want to hold on too tight to something that we love, but some of the stuff that we talked about earlier around self-discovery and healing, it really gives you, such a deep understanding of self that you say, okay, I think I'm holding on too tight. I need to let go. I'm holding on too tight, and I'm holding on too tight because I have abandonment issues. I'm holding on too tight because people leave, and I'm afraid that you might leave, and so I don't want you to leave. So I'm holding on too tight. I'm gonna let go, but I'm scared. I'm scared of letting go. I'm scared of letting go of this hold that I have. So I'm gonna go get some help and I'm gonna have to believe in what we have and that you won't leave, but I'm gonna go deal with my own abandonment issues over here. And those are some of the ways that trauma, and we don't see abandonment issues as trauma. That's some of the ways that childhood trauma plays out in our relationships, when we fear rejection, when we fear abandonment, when we experience neglect and other types of abuse. And it plays out in our relationships because we don't trust, which is a feature of healthy relationship. We're not, we don't have healthy communication. We don't realize that we have a filter, that when somebody says something, we're filtering that through it, and what we receive is not necessarily what was given. We struggle with managing conflict, and definitely our communication is just not the best. And so those are some of the ways that some of the stuff that we've talked about that is a feature of healthy relationship. And so I hope that the men that are listening will, and just the people that are listening, you who are listening, and we appreciate you, will take these things on board, and just to go investigate for yourself, with yourself, and go, where is it that this is not happening for me? Is there any last thing that you want to say, Corey?
I got to touch on ego as well.
Ego, go for it. What about ego?
As an African man. We again, it's one of those things, like how we've been conditioned to I don't know, to just be okay, just make sure you're well enough to keep the lights on and that sort of thing as well. That is another thing that we tend to struggle with. You know what I mean? You'll be amazed how many people want something done a certain way just because somebody else can see. You know what I mean? They may not even like.
Okay, as a show.
And I think that in relationships, that can be another serious relationship killer if it's not kept in check.
Indeed. Ego. And I like how you tied to culture, because I think culture informs our behavior as well, and we need to be aware of how we were socialized, and how we were socialized play out in how we are as people, so we can know the things we need to leave behind. So that's one of the things, men, ego. I think it's tied to the respect thing sometimes, and why the filter breaks, because if what is said is filtered through ego, you'll feel disrespected.
There'll be very little left.
Yeah. You'll be feeling very disrespected when that was not what was intended to happen. So what I'm going to sum this up by saying, and this is going to be the title of this podcast, is self-discovery. I think self-discovery helps us to have healthy relationships. When we understand ourselves, when we understand our childhood, when we understand the things that informs who we are as people, then we'll understand ourselves and able to function relationally in more healthier ways.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you for coming, and I'm looking forward to the other men that I'm going to be talking to. I think I'm going to talk to my husband next week, and so that's going to be a treat, having him on camera. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you for everybody. Please, as you listen to this podcast, share it with people who you think might benefit. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for having me.